Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trailblazers.fm podcast. Our guest today is Mr. JT McCormick. I am so excited. He's the president and CEO of Scribe Media and a best-selling author. And we're going to get into much of that today. JT, welcome to Trailblazers.fm, my brother.
My man, Steven, how's it going, sir?
I am blessed in this crazy season that we are in right now. I'm reminded to be grateful. And actually on that note, we love to start all our conversations off here on Trailblazers from a place of gratitude. So I wanted to open things up and ask, what's something or someone that you're thankful or you're grateful for right now?
Oh man, that's an easy one for me every morning, not just today, not just during the time, the period we're going through with the virus disruption, but every morning I start my day. It's an excellent day. If you wake up and your feet hit the ground, it's an excellent day. So for me, gratitude starts the moment you open your eyes in the morning, the moment your feet hit the floor, it's an excellent day.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. JT, your story, man, your folks reached out to me and I just read your story and your background and left me speechless, right? Your bio in part reads that you were born a mixed race son of a drug dealing pimp father and an orphan single mother on welfare. You're raised in the slums of Dayton, Ohio, suffered incredible abuse and racism, had multiple stints in juvie. You barely graduated high school and you have no college degree, right? So many people listen to that, right? And think, man, I wouldn't bet on this guy, right? And as you share here, your childhood was a nightmare, right? Was there anything, I was reading this and I was thinking to myself, man, from there to where you pivot to and you find yourself today, was there anything or any positive people or memories that you're able to kind of anchor, hold on to from that time that helped you to pivot towards a better life?
Oh man, my whole chaotic childhood, as I've gotten to be an adult, really starting in my 20s, I always look for the positives, man. Even with as much chaos as I grew up in, I choose to find the positives. I don't look at my situation as being a victim. I don't look at my situation as, oh me, oh my, and become depressed about it. It's life. Those are the cards that were dealt with me or to me. And then it becomes, okay, how do I want to play these cards? I don't know how many people are poker fans, but I always make the joke, in a hand of poker, I was dealt like a 2, a 5, a 7. And so, but the key is, man, I went all in with my hand. And that's really all you can do. So yeah, I look at my childhood and I choose to find the positives that I had through there. I made it through. That's first and foremost. So that's a positive in itself. But there were people along the way, that I learned lessons from. I can pretty much tell you, because it was so chaotic, I've chosen to look at those each individual moments. I don't have a great life story, but I've got some great positive moments. My third grade teacher, when she said, there are no dumb or stupid questions, that stuck with me. And I've been asking questions ever since. So I just look at those moments and choose to find the positives that came from them. One of the stories that many people are shocked when I tell this, my dad, as harsh as he was, gave me one of the greatest lessons in this world. He taught me to be kind, say hello, and be respectful to everyone. But that lesson came with him slapping me in the back of the head, my head hitting the ground, my nose started bleeding, and he held me up against the frozen food door. So although that was one of the greatest lessons, it was a harsh lesson, but it has paid dividends for me.
Wow. Love that you share that. I'm thinking of the seeds that we plant and people not thinking about it, right? As you talk about the third grade teacher. I'm continuing to just look at parts of your story, right? You shared that you worked your way up from cleaning toilets at a restaurant called Po Folks. Did my Jamaican accent do that justice?
What's funny about that, man, when you're poor, really at times all you have is laughter.
Yeah.
You're poor, and so you try to find things to laugh and have a good time about. And my mother and I used to always joke that we were so poor we couldn't afford the O and the R. We would just and the damnedest thing, my first job was at a place called Po Folks.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So, I mean, walk me through this transition, right? What happened, JT? What do you believe? I mean, you talk about just the mindset, right? And I love that you bring that. I find that that's a theme. I've spoken to 150 different successful entrepreneurs and leaders, and mindset absolutely has so much to do with it. But what do you believe, helped you to become successful and be able to deal with those hard times?
So, again, there's never just one thing. There's a series of things that take place. One that stood out for me as well, my dad was living in Houston, Texas, and I had been sent to live with him. And in Houston, Texas, there's a really ultra exclusive neighborhood called River Oaks, one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the country. And I remember my father, I was 10 years old, drove me through this neighborhood. And I don't know that he actually knew what he was doing, but what he did was show me opportunity. He showed me something different. We live in a society where we're always so busy trying to tell someone something and point the finger and talk to them. It was very powerful that he showed me that there are these houses, $5, $10, $15, $25 million homes that were bigger than the projects that I lived in. And I remember driving through that neighborhood and saying to myself, okay, I want to have one of those one day. And that was a real eye-opener to show me what was possible. Because up until that point, the first 10 years of my life, I didn't even know houses like that existed. Yeah. And so a lot of times things are what you can show someone, not always what you can tell them. And then the other piece for me, I would say a real critical piece, I eliminated as a child 3 words from my vocabulary: hope, wish, and luck. And I'll dive into it. When I wish there was something to eat, it never produced anything. Wishing is like the worst thing in the world. You can drive through a neighborhood, no, I wish I had a house like that, or I wish I got that promotion at work. Well, you can wish all day. It's not going to produce anything. And then hope, same thing. When I would hope my dad would come pick me up, he never showed up. When I would hope there was something to eat when I got home, it didn't produce anything. And hope is so strong. You're going to appreciate this, Steve. I have a pastor friend of mine, and he goes, JT, I preach hope all the time in my sermon. And he said, in fact, I said hope 16 times in my sermon last week. And I said, okay, fair enough. I go, I'll make this real easy. Do you want me to hope there's a God, or do you want me to believe there's a God? And to keep in mind, he's a pastor. He goes, damn. He goes, I never thought of it that way. And I said to him, I go, if I believe there's a God, then I've got to execute my life and live my life as if I truly believe in God. If I believe I can have that house, then I've got to execute what it's going to take to have that house. So for me, belief forces execution, because you can't believe in something and then not execute on it, or then you truly don't believe in it. And then the last one is luck. I just don't even do luck. It's just a bad word for me. For everyone who says the $100 million lottery winner was lucky, no, he or she wasn't. They bought a ticket. That's really what it comes down to. Right. And Stephen, I'll wrap it up with this piece. I'm so adamant about the word wish and eliminating it. When we have birthday parties, I've got 4 children. When we have their birthday parties, most people will say, oh, blow out the candles and make a wish. No, not in our house, not in the McCormick house. Really? We blow out the candles and you make a goal. So I love this. Yeah. No, we don't make wishes in our house.
Wow. I love this. I love this. So let's bring things forward. Today, you're the president and CEO of Scribe Media, and a best-selling author. You've now helped more than 1,500 authors, I believe, right? People like David Goggins and Tiffany Haddish are amongst the authors you've helped publish books. Bring me back to what sparked the idea for Scribe Media.
Wow. So I'll give you the story of actually how I got to Scribe Media. I was actually the president of a software company, and I was traveling a ton at the time. And I only had two children at the time. And I remember saying to myself, wow, if something happened to me, my children would not know where I came from. They would not know that we don't know where our last name comes from. So I set out on this mission to write my book. And I never wanted my book to be public. Never. I was writing that book as a legacy piece for my children because, you know, if you look at like the Kennedys, the Ford family, they can trace 5 generations, 6 generations. Man, Steve, I can't trace 30 minutes. And so I wanted to have this book as a legacy piece for my children. Long story short, I reached out to the 2 co-founders of Scribe. And one of the co-founders comes over to my office at the software company. He and I hit it off, and he says, okay, yeah, you got a book in you. And so he asked when we're wrapping up, he goes, man, you built an awesome company here at the software company. And I said to him, no one person ever builds a great company. I said, this took a lot of people to build this company. And he said, hey, when you go through our process, can you give me feedback? And I said, yeah, why not? As I was going through the process of doing my book, their company was only 13 months old. So they were a fresh startup and they were struggling. And so I would give them feedback, and then he invited me to be an advisor for the company. Then he invited me to the executive meeting. And then one day he and the co-founder invite me to Starbucks, and they said, hey, if we give you a ton of equity, will you come be the CEO of the company? So I became the CEO of Scribe. What's funny about this is I was the president of a software company and I can't write code. I'm the CEO of a publishing company and I can't tell you an adverb from an adjective, and I damn sure can't spell.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love to hear. I mean, right now we're in the middle of social, political, economic crazy, right? And I think it's hard right now to find an entrepreneur or a leader who isn't experiencing unprecedented chaos. I still think in the day-to-day of running a company and being a leader, we have those epic fails along the way, right? Could you maybe talk to, one or two of those big lessons that you've learned along the journey from some of the bigger failures?
So I'm going to push back here a little bit, and I appreciate you letting me answer this. You mentioned the word failure. I'm a big believer in you only fail if you stop trying. Mm-hmm. And so I've made a ton of mistakes. But if the goal is to learn from our mistakes and not repeat our mistakes and grow from our mistakes, it's the damnedest thing in our society. We preach to one another, oh, you learned the most from your mistakes, but nobody's sharing mistakes. If you ever look at a LinkedIn post, a blog post, everyone's talking about top 5 things Jeff Bezos does to be successful, top 10 things Steve Jobs did to be successful. Give me the top 10 mistake list. That's the one that I need to look at. So what's interesting, I just don't believe in the term fail fast. Man, I've been trying to learn faster my whole life. So I don't want to fail fast. Now, I've got some failed relationships because we broke up and we're not together anymore. But as far as lessons in business, man, as a first-time president of a software company, God knows I made a ton of mistakes. But I learned from those mistakes. I didn't repeat those mistakes. I grew from those mistakes. And even coming over to Scribe, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made at the company, when I became CEO, I had 2 co-founders. My one co-founder is incredibly successful author, Tucker Max. He is one of 4 people in the history of the world who have had 3 New York Times best-selling books on the list simultaneously. There's only 4 people who have ever done that, and he's one of them.
Wow.
So I've got that level of fame that I'm working with a co-founder, and then I've got a 26-year-old co-founder. And 26-year-old, we've all been there. You're still kind of arrogant, and so I had this huge dynamic that I was working with, and then they insert me as the CEO. So for about the first 6 to 9 months, one of the big mistakes that I made was I empowered the two co-founders to still be too influential. They hired me for a reason. They gave me equity in the company for a reason, because I knew how to do something they didn't know how to do. And what ended up kept happening was we would talk about an initiative. I would say, here's what needs to happen. They would push back. I would go with whatever they said. And then we'd find ourselves 60 days later, they're like, why'd you let us do that? And so here we were 9 months later, and so many people have a come to Jesus talk. No, we had a come to God talk. Yeah. And they said, look, man, we hired you because you know how to do something we don't. Stop allowing us to be too influential. And so here we are, 4 years later, man. We've worked with 1,600 authors. You nailed it. David Goggins, Tiffany Haddish. One of my favorite is we did the book for the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. And why that's important to me is that just speaks to the level of our quality that we provide.
Right. I love that, man. So let me ask you, you talk about your two co-founders. Maybe it's one of them, but who do you trust to give you objective feedback?
So, man, here's my 3 rules of leadership. Surround the company with people far smarter than yourself. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, surround yourself with people far smarter than yourself. And then rule number 3, repeat rules 1 and 2. That's all I got. That's my leadership philosophy, man. So I've surrounded myself with a company of people that are incredible. They're talented. And then the executive team that I've surrounded myself with is equally talented. And so everyone knows we don't need yes people on the executive team. You got to push back. You got to have an opinion. You got to state why you believe in something or why you don't believe in something. So I seek the counsel of our executive team. And at the end of the day, as I say to people, my role as the CEO is to serve and support. Yeah, I make some decisions and things of that nature, but I serve all 50 of our tribe members. We call ourselves a tribe. And I support all 50 of our tribe members. And I'm so adamant about that, Stephen. Let me share this with you. If you go to our website right now, you go to most company websites and you go to the About Us page. The first thing you see are the C-suite executives, the CEOs, the founders, blah, blah, blah. If you go to our website right now, you have to go to the bottom of the page if you're looking for me. And the reason why that's very intentional, because I want you to see all of the people who are actually doing the work long before you get down to me. My role is to be the foundation that serves all of those individuals above me.
Preach. I love this. I love this. I love servant leadership. I think it's so important, and I love that you're pushing that. You're looking at Scribe. Is there an end goal for you guys? Where are you working to take the company?
We're in a great position right now. Traditional publishing, they only want to publish your book if they can have book sales. If you've got this massive 2 million following on Instagram or Facebook. A big win for us last year was David Goggins had every opportunity to go traditional and he chose not to. We got to publish his book and he was far more successful and got to keep so much more money going self-published versus going traditional. He owns every ounce of his book, every letter of his book. So he's not splitting royalties with traditional publishers. So for us, we believe everyone has a story. And, everyone should tell their story. So for us, we're just looking to continue to publish authors, help them promote their books, help them. Many of our authors are looking for credibility, thought leadership, lead generation with their books. And then some of them want a legacy piece like me. I just wanted a legacy piece. I'm blown away, especially if you're in a financial position to do so, how many people don't write a book to pass down to their families. By time your great grandchildren are born, all they're hearing are fragmented stories about their great grandfather, and the stories are going to be lost in translation, and they're going to be minimal stories. So I'm shocked that more people don't write books for their legacy. I mean, books are timeless. I don't care what form a book comes in. Think about it: audio book,
Yeah.
CD. I'm going to show my age here. Cassette. Yeah, I went with the cassette. But the most printed book of all time is the Bible. Yeah. So books are timeless. They're not going anywhere.
As you're talking about that, several years ago, I started playing in Ancestry. You're talking about legacy, and I started talking to my family. My dad is one of 12 kids. Wow. Started talking to him, and I'm like, hey, I'm dialing back to his grandparents, and we have a picture of my great grandparents, a black lady, a white dude. And I'm like, who are they? Right? Like, I know that this guy comes from, like England. And I know she's in Jamaica, but like looking at this picture, it's this guy sitting in a chair and the woman is standing up. And I'm like, tell me more. So everyone points me to the eldest brother, my dad's eldest brother. And I jump on the phone. He's in Canada at the time. And he had found out he had cancer. And so I was like, let me call him. And JT, I recorded a 33-minute recording of him sharing information that most of his siblings did not know. Fast forward a year out, he had a stroke. He couldn't speak again. And he passed away a year ago, right? And I have a recording that majority of the family did not know the information he passed along to me, right? And so it's fueled me as a podcaster. I started getting in front of aunts and uncles, my parents, and just hitting record on voice memo on my cell phone, catching audio.
Right.
And I did that to my dad probably a year ago, and he had a stroke this past December. And so, grace of God, he's still able to speak. But in the last couple months, he and I have had several sit downs where I am just like, tell me every last detail, and where his short-term memory is spotty right now, his memory of the long-term, I mean, he could get incredibly vivid on 50 years ago, right? And I'm just catching all of this in audio. And you talk about legacy, I just thought about all of this and just the importance of that, right? That we catch this, because there's so much gems, that would never get passed on to future generations, if not.
Yeah, I mean, you now to think about it. You said your dad had he comes from a family of 12 siblings. My father had 23 kids. I'm one of 23, and when I went back to my father's funeral, I met 5 siblings I didn't even know I had.
Wow!
And so you're right, when it comes to the legacy piece. That's really what I wanted my children to be able to have, is to know. That we have no clue where this last name McCormick comes from. My mother was given that name in the orphanage, and she has no clue where or why she has this name. So now I walk around with the name McCormick, no clue why.
Understanding.
Yeah, so it's legacy was very important to me, and it's interesting. We as humans do this all the time. You don't appreciate something until you don't have it, and so. For people who come from big families, who come from generational families, they kind of take it for granted. Someone like me who doesn't come from a big family, I got 23 siblings, but we weren't a family. It's legacy was very important to me. So it's the reason why I have 4 kids. I was trying to leave a legacy.
I love that, man. I love that. So let's have you share some advice with our Blazer Nation. We affectionately call our community our Blazer Nation. Have you share some advice with them on how those listening can begin to cultivate an empowered mindset. You talked about mindset quite a bit throughout the call. As you said, gain a better perspective on the problems and embody the belief that they're in control of their own destiny.
I'd say, so I live by a formula. It's called mindset, choices, and hard work equals success. I live by that formula every day. And to drop down a step further, I also live by 5 pillars. So what I mean by that are my 5 pillars for life are God, health, family, business, and investing. Why that's important, we live in a time period right now where everyone's running around talking about work-life balance, work-life balance. And what I find interesting about this is whenever you talk about work-life balance with someone, the first thing they bring up is work. You know, the 4-hour work week, don't work 50, 60 hours, don't check your emails first thing in the morning. But no one talks about the life side of the balance. No one talks about, hey, how about you not go to the club Thursday through Sunday and then wake up on Monday pissed off because you haven't achieved your dreams and goals? How about you not binge watch Game of Thrones Friday through Sunday and wake up mad because you haven't achieved your dreams or goals? And so when you look at our society, so many people buy in to the BS of society. Here's another one. Yeah, I'm an old guy. Instagram, Facebook, I don't care, TikTok, whatever social media platform you want to talk about. How about you not go to dinner and take pictures of your food only to post it? And here's the thing, here's how it goes down. Someone takes a picture, and you know this, no one ever gets the picture right on the first attempt. So you take 3 pictures of your food, then you post it up on whatever platform it is. Now, here's what happens next. You post it, you set your phone down. 2 minutes later, what do you feel the need to do? Pick up your phone, because now you got to check, how many likes did I get? How many hearts did I get? Did I get any comments?
And you just completely missed the moment.
You completely missed the moment. And it's funny because that's how we're living right now. I read an article. The average person spends 53 minutes a day on Facebook. 53 minutes. Do you know what I can accomplish
in 53
minutes a day?
Yeah.
And so we're not checking ourselves as individuals on accomplishing our goals. We'll have the nerve. It's disgusting to me that binge watching is even a term. We'll have the nerve to brag about binge watching some series, but when's the last time you've ever heard anybody say, oh man, Stephen, man, I binge studied my 401k all weekend? Never. You don't hear that, but you hear someone have the nerve to tell you, oh my God, I was on hotels.com for 3 hours and I saved $50 on this weekend getaway to Vegas or to the coast. Well, why not spend the same amount of time checking your mutual funds, your investments, your stock? No one does that. No one's trying. And then some people will even have the nerve to sit there and say, oh, well, it's difficult and I don't understand it. Well, you know what? You got to teach yourself. If you're, excuse my language, if you're a grown ass man or woman, you got to teach yourself. Stop blaming other people. It's not anybody else's fault. You have to take the initiative.
Absolutely.
So for me, the mindset just starts first thing in the morning. I woke up this morning, gratitude, because I realized there is someone in a hospital bed right now with cancer who would love to get out of bed, and they're not going to be able to get out of bed today. And so I keep that mindset when it's 4 a.m. and I don't want to get out of bed. I keep the mindset that, hey, someone would trade places with me right now. And it's up to us as people, as individuals, adults, that when we feel our world is down on us and our bubble is tight and oh my gosh, things are so hard, go stand outside your house, go stand outside your office, and within a 1 mile radius, somebody will trade places with you. And I keep that perspective all the time. And then I'll give you this last one on the perspective part, man. I don't care where somebody falls on the political side, left, right, Democrat, independent. It doesn't matter to me. Right now, there's a single mom with 2 kids walking 1,100 miles from Honduras to try to get into this country to create an opportunity for herself and for her children. And if she does manage to get into this country, here's what she gets: you got into this country. You still have to find an opportunity. You still don't speak the language. You still need to feed your kids and find shelter. Man, on my worst day of being sexually molested as a kid, I have never had to face that. So I look at the fact that I was born in this country and I have a responsibility to go out and create opportunity for myself.
Wow. Man, you could just keep talking. I didn't want to ask nothing else. But,
you hit a hot point for me, man. It's we all have a choice, and I'll admit, man, I'm human. I'll give you a story because I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm on a soapbox, and
no.
I don't make mistakes. This past Christmas, I tell this story to people. I left the office early. And I was excited to go home. It was Christmas time. I'm going to watch Christmas cartoons with my kids, make some popcorn. And I left the office early. And it was probably 30 degrees. It was drizzling. And I'm driving home. And I hit traffic, man. And I'm talking hit traffic as in I had to put the car in park traffic. And so I'm sitting there. And I'm angry. And I'm upset. And I text my wife, and I'm like, I'm pissed. I'm about to lose my temper. And the minute I put my phone down, man, I said to myself, you ungrateful bastard. You grew up riding the bus. You grew up wearing bread bags on your feet because you had holes in your shoes. And now you're sitting in a $100,000 car driving to a gated community, and you're mad because you got to sit in a little bit of traffic. Man, I turned on Christmas music and sang Joy to the World. But it's up to us to keep things in perspective. It's up to us to make those choices, man. I love McDonald's. I don't care what anybody else says. Most people won't admit that. I love McDonald's, damn it. I'm gonna own it. and so, it's my choice in the morning when I go to the gym. Am I gonna go to the gym or am I gonna stop at that McDonald's I gotta pass? It's that simple. What is the choice? And the last thing I would share with people, if you find yourself in a career or a job where you got to say, thank God it's Friday, you need to quit. You need to find somewhere else to work, because if you're trading 2 for 5, you're in the wrong place. You've got to find a different place to work and a different career to be in. Never find yourself in a position of saying, thank God it's Friday. And if you are in that position right now, take initiative. Don't binge watch this weekend. Don't sit there and go to the club. Find a way to get out of that TGIF career or job that you're in, but take initiative.
Or mindset.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, we're getting set to wrap up here, and I could have just listened to you talk for, another 30, 45 minutes. But I wanted to ask you 2 more questions before I let you go.
For sure.
What are you reading right now, or maybe that you've read recently that you think, we should probably be looking to add to our reading queue?
What am I actually, I'm reading right now in the middle of the book about Genghis Khan and his leadership and how he went about doing things. And it's interesting. I'm half white, half black. My dad was black. My mom's white. And it's interesting, I'm reading this book and I come across this part where if you were white boned, what they called back in his time period, you were of purity. And if you were black boned, you were not. And I just found it so intriguing that here I am, half white, half black, reading about white bone and black bone, and just thinking about how many times I was discriminated against for being mixed race. And so that's what I'm reading right now. One of my favorite books of all time, if anybody cares, is the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And matter of fact, it's a big piece of my mindset came from that book. And I'll share one particular story. There was a story in there, and I'm paraphrasing, about Thomas Edison and when he discovered the light bulb. And it said that it took him 10,000 times to discover the light bulb. And what was key to me is it said, did he fail 10,000 times or did he find 10,000 ways that didn't work? And that was a mindset shift for me that I thought, oh, you only fail if you stop trying. He never failed because he just kept going.
Right.
And so for me, especially coming out of my chaotic childhood, what that said for me is just keep going. Mm-hmm. And so that was the mindset I developed. So those are the two books I'd share with you.
Love it. As we wrap up here, I'm going to ask you this question that I ask everyone as I close this call. What's one action that our Blazer Nation community should take this week that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
Self-regulation. Check yourself. You will find yourself where you feel the world's against you, where you want to blame society, and I'm definitely speaking to people who are here in the U.S., in this country. If you were born here, you have a responsibility to take initiative. You have a responsibility to do all that you can to find a way. I know where I come from. I come from dirt. I come from a pimp father and an orphan mother. But I truly believe that in this country, you can be successful. Are there hurdles? Yes. Does racism exist? Yes. In fact, I will even argue with anyone. I tell people all the time, you want to have a racism conversation with me? Try being half white, half black. Black people don't like you because you're half white. White people don't like you because you're half black. So you've got nowhere to fit in. So if you want to have a race conversation with me, more than happy to do that. But I just believe, find a way. We've all heard the stories of people who come into this country for the first time. They've got 45 cents in their pocket. Only years later, you find out they're a multimillionaire. Damn it, if you were born here, you have a responsibility to make a way for yourself.
JT, I am blessed by you, my brother. You have an open invitation to come back on this podcast anytime you want, man.
I appreciate that, sir. This has been great.
You're blessed with so much wisdom. Before I let you go, I know you talk about social media. Where can we find you online? Where can people connect to you?
I am big on LinkedIn. Every Tuesday, I'll post some type of lesson or mistake I've made throughout my career. You know, I'm an old guy. I'm 48 years old. So I'll share things that have worked for me throughout my career. I'll share mistakes that I've made throughout my career. But yeah, you're not going to find me active on Facebook, Instagram, but LinkedIn, because it's a bit more of a professional social media, you can find me there.
Stop trying to age yourself, man. 48 ain't old.
Yeah, hey, I'm 48 years old, and I got a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
God bless you, man. I'm gonna give you one. Aging is mandatory. Growing old is optional.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Nice.
I'll definitely, we'll make sure your LinkedIn profile is on our show notes page here. God bless you, my brother. Thank you so much for the time.
Stephen, this was phenomenal. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, man.